I've been playing Star Wars Outlaws, and after the first 20 hours in and completing just under half of the main missions in-game, here's my impressions and thoughts on whether this is worth your time playing. I've partnered with Ubisoft to produce this content. If you're one of those many people that love to lose themselves in side quests and occasionally dip into the main story, then this game is perfect for you. But I'm not one of those people. I want to get hooked into a juicy story first and then spend some time doing sides to build out abilities and extra functionality. Waiting the main storyline in open world is a problem that a lot of games can't seem to crack. Honestly, this is a larger issue with open world gaming, but really found any solution as of yet. It was something that made dropping in and out of Cyberpunk 2077 an issue for me, because I couldn't remember what the main quest was and what the controls were for the loadout. It was an issue in Elden Ring, but to a lesser degree, since it was so much fun to just aimlessly roam around the open world, since there was depths to pretty much everything and every encounter and location. Star Wars, I admit, comes with baggage. Decades of world building, lore, expectations can feel like there's a lot to live up to, especially with the very fun and playable Star Wars Jedi, Fallen Order, and to a lesser extent, Jedi Survivor being out there. The bar is set high, and they make their stories epic, if not legendary. First up, I want to acknowledge that the story here isn't the galaxy-altering fantasy we've gotten used to, offering a different perspective on a story where you deal with the criminal underbelly of the galaxy and leave the Empire and Rebel Alliance to do their thing while you thieve and thrive. Granted, at times the main narrative can feel almost mundane in compared to the Jedi Fate of the Universe storylines and unlockable lightsaber combos you can achieve in the other series. There are some spoilers, if not pretty mild, and I'll keep the review to the broad story, characters and factions that I thought were notable. I won't go into detailed plot and story in case you want to check it out for yourself. I will offer a few tips and hints that you might feel helpful, but off we go. We start meeting Kves, the game's main protagonist. All we really need to know about her is that she's a thief, and for most of the first third of the game, that's pretty much all you know fully about her. The game seems less concerned with giving the main character drives and motivations rather than objectives to upgrade and unlock for the player. You have a trusty pet Merqual named Nyx instead of a bot, who will do things, get things, sense things, as per usual for these kinds of games. You start in Canto Bight. You might remember it from the racing city in The Last Jedi, and quickly move to Toshara to pick up the main story, get your stolen ship, a hyperdrive. Side note, Star Wars games deliberately make sidekicks very handy, but Nyx will be essential to you, so make sure to unlock his new abilities. Nyx is the most useful sidekick, best friend, partner in crime, Merqual you will find this side of Canto Bight. Nyx offers you all kinds of unique abilities to climb, fetch, steal, attack, distract, and also senses danger when you have a job of infiltrating Imperial space stations, where if you get caught, you will fail the mission and you'd start over. You can also unlock cute little outfits for him and new abilities through the street food vendors, like kicking away pesky grenades. So make sure to grab some food for 200 credits when you can. The main story is maybe, for me, one of the weakest elements of the game. Things happen to Kay, and she is led to decisions and events that seem to happen around her. The only real decisions that she seems to control are over her relationships with the syndicates and factions. I struggle to see why all the other rich characters in the game come to Kay and need to use her skills, due to the fact that she barely escaped alive out of a botched heist like the one that led to her stealing her first ship, the Trailblazer, a prototype special ship that she keeps using even though everybody knows it, and it would be near impossible to keep a low profile as a thief while using it. That just doesn't make any sense to me. Side quests are attached to everything in Outlaws. If you want to upgrade your blaster, then there are many people you need to steal, bribe and convince to get the parts you need. You can customize your clothes, which gives you additional storage space for some of those Bacta vials that keep you healthy. If you're wandering aimlessly in the city of Mergana on Toshara, make sure to stop by the arcades, where you can play old-style arcade games in-game, like Raven 6, which is a starfighter simulator, where you pilot an Imperial vessel hunting down pirates and smugglers. I thought this was cute. Imperial pilots have been found to leave their initials with the highest score on the machines. There's lots of these games and others that you can find around the worlds too. During the game, you come across experts that you can learn from, and they unlock more abilities for you to achieve. These can be from fighting, to speeder riding, to learning to use your splicer hacking kit more efficiently. There are 8 experts you can find to keep adding to your abilities. They have around 5 to 6 abilities each for you. Reputation is something new in Outlaws. You work for the factions and syndicates on the many worlds you visit, or you can work for them if you wish. These are mostly jobs where you steal, delete or remove data or find objects they need, and they pay you credits for your services. While the Empire and Rebel Alliance play a part in the story, the focus on the factions and syndicates who rule the criminal underworld with an iron grip is key. Kay works for near all the syndicates if you want her to, but be careful working for one group over another. This can negatively affect your reputation and will make travel in those sectors much more difficult and risky. Here's some of the factions you'll deal with that I've unlocked so far. On the desert planet of Cantonica, the Sixth Kin make money out of Canto Bite's worker district, operating from a seedy nightclub called Club Tarsus. They are small fries compared to some of the other organizations. The Sixth Kin make their money by smuggling exotic animals, stage fights, and sell counterfeit luxury goods. The Hutt Cartel are one of the oldest cartels in the galaxy, run by the Council of Hutts. A ruthless cartel run by Jabba Desilicic Tiur, the single most powerful crime lord who is ruthless and uses force and intimidation to take power and defeat enemies. The Queen rules unchallenged in the Ashiga clan, who are a reclusive crime family who've managed to keep the Empire at bay. Based on the icy planet of Kojima, they're now expanding quickly and looking for help to get into other worlds and systems like Toshara, so they could do with the services of a nimble-handed thief like Kay. Through the Queen's planned expansion, there have been some unrest in that clan. One of the first syndicates you'll meet when you start into Outlaws is the Pike Syndicate, another old and wealthy group that values tradition and wealth. The Kessel spice mining brings in much of their wealth, but also smuggling and black market distribution of coaxium, a rare explosive material that powers ships hyperdrives throughout the galaxy. The Pikes have operations everywhere, with starfighters, freights, and advanced weaponry to achieve their goals. Very powerful, very dangerous. Zarek Besh are led by Slero, resident bad guy socialite on Canto Bite, and your main villain. Through their smuggling routes and cutthroat approach to their competition, sometimes literally, they have risen quickly over the last few years, being the newest syndicate on the block. Smuggling, extortion, and gambling are the main ways that they make their money, but Slero has much bigger plans for his legion of enforcers. Crimson Dawn are not well known. Under the leadership of Lady Quira, they deal in the shadows and don't like direct confrontation with rival syndicates. They deal in political schemes, espionages, and assassinations. They serve a secret agenda, deliberately pitting one crime family against another to further their plans. So that was mostly all the factions and syndicates you meet. A new addition to the game is the ability to fly your Trailblazer starship to different planets you've unlocked. While most of the experience is you controlling the ship, loading cutscenes bracket you, taking off and landing on each of the areas, so you don't need to worry about making that pitch perfect landing. The controls of the ship take some getting used to, since in space it's mostly a full perspective environment, almost 360. you can also use the hyperdrive. When you get to the stage in the story, you can unlock it. Onto my least favourite mode of transport, the nippy little speeder. Speeder controls, on my PS5 anyway, are maybe deliberately tough to master, with the large jumps and overall equilibrium occasionally giving me motion sickness, which meant I needed to step away for a while until I felt better. Once I got into a straightforward road that I can follow, that seemed to be more or less okay. When the horizon line moves too much, then that had a direct effect on me feeling just utter crap. You can take on many side quests to upgrade your speeder if you want to rush into Imperial zones and steal from their stations, which is actually something you might want to do, as there's quite a lot of credits and loot hidden in there, and usually all have a hidden way to enter quietly. The game looks great, as to be expected from a AAA game, and the cost attached. The environs are inviting, and each of the side characters' alien designs, movements, and dialogue are well treated, smooth, and well delivered. I felt the extra emphasis on the creature designs were probably my favourite, as they seemed like they got much more time and attention. The standout is your little buddy Nyx. The character design is deliberately adorable, as with most sidekicks, and his static stance is just well thought out and kind of lovable. The user interface was nicely handled and didn't feel hard to jump in and play. There was a very small learning curve, and the menus and contextual information were nicely laid out for first time play, and the typography is lovely. I played on normal mode, and this was pretty straightforward, and enemies didn't feel like that challenging, but this isn't a Souls game, and the focus is for adventure and exploration on each of the worlds that you unlock. So there's enough for you to keep engaged and take time. While the game did crash a few times in small battles on Kimi, otherwise I found it stable, and apart from one or two graphic issues, which I'll talk about in a bit, pretty smooth overall for console. Now, here's my number one gripe with Outlaw, and that's Kves, the main protagonist. She just isn't that interesting of a character so far, for me anyway. Maybe I need to get at least half of the main questline done to make a full assessment of the principal driver of the story, but so far, she's been super meh. The types of thieves we've previously gotten have been like scoundrels and cheeky type characters that we fall in love with and have been part and parcel of the Star Wars universe that we've been presented with for nearly all the movies and games in the franchise. The archetype, Han's Solo style. Kay isn't that. She falls flat for humour, distinctness, and very lackluster principal motivations that drive the main storyline. I don't really care for her through line. Usually, there would be a character-led motivation that drives the story, but here I felt the story drove the characters, which doesn't make me empathise with her journey, and ultimately rooting for her to achieve her goals. I want her to be more charismatic, to get me invested, to learn more about her past. So far, I just don't feel connected to her, and that's a problem. What caught my eye too many times was the way the graphics engine had a problem with Kay's hair. This is fine when it happens to side characters, but like in your main protagonist, I would have thought there would have been more ways to make this less obvious. I even changed my graphics setting to quality to see if that might help with the hair rendering issue. It made no real impact, so I changed it back to performance and tried to ignore it. It's a small thing, but still noticeable. This may be the issue that many superhero movies suffer from, that the main hero is never as interesting as the villains they confront. It's a trope that we've seen in Batman movies and many hero series on Disney. Or maybe the main character is just not that interesting in this case. I think as I play on, this could be answered and I could be completely wrong. And she turns out to be the most charismatic rogue we have ever encountered in all the games and movies. I hope this be the case, I really actually do. Star Wars Outlaws comes out on August 30th, and it's a good entry into the legacy of Star Wars games, but ultimately, I feel will be left behind by its impact and sheer uniqueness, or lack thereof, in this very rich galactic setting. Beautifully realized environments, rich character designs, are underserved by a forgettable main character and a collection of side quests that call themselves a main story. Granted, I've only played about 47% of the game, but by now, I would have hoped to see why I would have fallen in love with it. And if I haven't, and I haven't, then I feel I never will. I'm Neph, and that was my first thoughts on Star Wars Outlaws. Will you be getting the game? Are you going to check it out? Are you a Star Wars fan? If you are, if you aren't, leave your thoughts in the comments. I'd appreciate them. Like, sub, and talk to you next time.